The Brazilian family is asking that the boy himself now be brought to a court to offer his own wishes before a judge. It's something a Brazilian court had initially turned down. Meanwhile, this morning, Sean Goldman's biological father talks about bringing his son home. David Goldman, reunited with his son since Christmas Eve, spoke of pulling back into the neighborhood where they once lived together.
We're coming home. He said, "Where's our home?" And just to hear him say, "our home." I waited 5 years for that.
But now comes word the Brazilian family ordered to return 9-year-old Sean Goldman to his father here in the U.S. plans to keep fighting, pushing forward with its request that the boy be allowed to make his own wishes known back in a Brazilian court. Their initial request for this was denied, but the Brazilian court has yet to rule for good. But how likely is it that any court would bring the boy back?
Realistically, it's just not going to happen. I cannot imagine any judge or any judicial system in the United States sending this boy back.
Last night, the boy's Brazilian grandmother told us she's not giving up. Sean did not have his most basic right respected, she told us, which was to be listened to by the Brazilian justice system. It was just last week the Brazilian Supreme Court ordered the boy be returned to his biological father. There was chaos before the reunion.
It was awful that last day for him to be dragged through that crowd. And it was completely unnecessary. He's afraid of cameras, and that was so unnecessary.
And as this international case plays out in front of the cameras, some even inside the Goldman home, come questions about whether too much exposure could be in any way harmful.
The media can only be a negative for any child, but particularly a child who just is in a very sensitive period of their lives.
Goldman says his son hasn't called him dad yet, but he'll wait.
After 5 years, I know my son is safe, sound, asleep in his bed. It's a gift from God. He also spoke about showing his son his own room, the room he hasn't seen in years. He said it all came back to him, a moment that the father waited for, of course. There's been a lot of concern about the boy, as you heard there, and the father said the boy hasn't cried, hasn't shown any anguish. They've actually been playing Wee Dan, and I'm told the boy's been beating the pants off his dad.
It's kind of surprising. A lot of experts predicted this would be a really emotional, difficult time for the boy.
But he is so young, so you have to watch him, in the years ahead, I'm sure.
Right.
But the bottom line is it looks like he will be staying in New Jersey.
Yeah, I think it'd be very hard for a Brazilian court to get him back.
Okay. All right, David.
David, thanks.